Hey, I'm Justin Gaffrey, and today we're going to do an abstract flower paint. When I learned how to paint, I kind of started painting flowers because it was a way I could paint to learn how to use a knife and paint composition and color. And so flowers are like a nice organic shape. They don't have to be perfect, and you can pretty much make up a flower if you want. I usually use like an inspiration of a flower, but mostly I just evolve into making made up flowers into a composition of color and texture. Basically, the short of it is this knife right here, this is the main knife I use. When I picked up this knife, I was like, oh, that looks like a flower petal. And what made sense to me was scoop knife on this paint and make one petal with this. And that's kind of the direction we're going to move in this. I was inspired by Van Gogh sunflowers. It was a great way for me to learn to use this knife and practice and kind of create my own technique out of it. However, I got kind of bored doing sunflowers, and it's like, oh, I need to do another flower, so I did a poppy. However, painting poppies exactly the way they look was kind of boring to me, so I just kind of created my own version of a poppy. And what's happened over the years is all the flower pieces kind of evolve into like made up flowers, and they're basically just composition and color.
Let it rip.
So now I have no idea what I'm painting. Just trying to figure out how to make that into a square because it's like a branch coming out. As I said, this is kind of a loose, abstract interpretation of flowers. And I have a little bit of the titanium white. And I'm just putting this down to have a little wet. I like to paint wet. I'm wet when I'm painting a composition like this, so the colors blend in a little better. Basically, what I'm going to do here is imagine there's a branch coming through and flowers are just kind of dripping down, like branches coming out the side. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to go with this, but it's going to be something like that. It's good to kind of use this as the white. I'm not messing anything up, and I can kind of see generally what my idea we're going to go with. In all honesty, I really don't have I really don't know exactly what I'm doing here, so we're all going to kind of figure this out almost together. So basically I want to kind of create an ambiance in the background. Just a little bit of blue in the background. Likely most of this is all going to be covered, so I'm not really worried about what it really looks like right now. Just to know that the area where that branch is going to come through is going to come through in a little bit of blue area. This painting will probably have a good amount of white space in it, so these colors pop out. One of the things is, besides phthalo green, I make all my own greens. And one of my favorite greens that I like to make is Indian yellow and ultramarine blue. And it will have kind of a semi-transparent appearance on it. I'm going to take some of our titanium white heavy texture right here on my palette, and I've got this green here, and you can see it kind of, that's the way it's going to look over the top of the green, which is the Indian yellow and ultramarine. And so I just created kind of a stem. And this is going to be the kind of the foundation of things branching off of it. And as I said before, I really don't know exactly where I'm going with this. But why not? Let's put a big old leaf on this thing. And these are kind of impressionistic forms here. I'm not worried about perfect, but here's an important thing to know. If I get the paint just right on the palette, it's going to look much better. So you can see it's kind of almost taken shape of the form of the knife itself. One thing I realized too is I don't do good on certain angles. I usually like to set up my canvas on the angle that's most comfortable. So I'm going to bear with it here. And so now I've got me a nice little basic vine right there. And I'm going to imagine maybe it has some big old pink flowers on there. Or yellow. So this is one of my favorite things about working with heavy texture and like the medium viscosity color. See, this color right here is kind of really, this is like a typical tube paint here of like a medium to heavy viscosity, but it's not super thick. What I love is I get a nice glaze of it on top of the knife here. And I'm going to take it over the white and create a nice dollop. And you see those nice variegated lines? I'm actually going to let this be what shows. So like that, when I pressed those down, I pushed it in. And so this one, since it looks so good on the knife, I'm going to try and keep what was there. And now this is just kind of like a nice little flower bulb there. And I'm not worried about every stroke being perfect because each one's a little different, and I kind of like that. And I know so I got a nice simple composition here, and I got to figure out how I'm going to keep going with this here. And I kind of wish I would have pre-planned it, but I'm going to have to figure it out. All right. I think we need to add some yellow into this. Filled up my palette already. I generally use a lot of paint, so I fill up my palette really quick. So this is our Hansa yellow mixed with titanium white in the bag here. It's kind of nice and convenient to just dollop it out like that right there. So you know what I'm going to do? So I know this is going to be the bottom of the painting, but I'm going to switch it for right now, so I can kind of work on it on an angle that's comfortable to me. Because I have a good tendency to work my palette knife this way. And then when we start doing all the finish work, we're going to turn it back down. So this imaginary plant has multiple different flowers in it. It's kind of what's fun about this, is we could do whatever we want. I might be going a little fast here, but basically what I'm doing here, this is the bottom of the knife. I'm twirling it in there, and I'm getting a nice little dollop on there. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of dropping it and letting it slide off the knife and pull it up. So oftentimes what I do is I mix my own colors in the bags, and so I'm going to mix some more green in here, and what I'm going to do is I put some Indian yellow in the bag, some ultramarine in the bag, mix it all around, and I have a nice green inside the bag, you see. And you could either scoop this in from a container, or just pipe it in, and now I just put titanium white in the bag. I'm going to cut just a little bit of that bag off these little stems here that are going to connect these little yellow. So you can see here, got this nice white and yellow, nice little bit of white in there to contrast from the other one. And I'm making stems that are joining the main stem here. And I'm not worried about them being perfect. This is kind of impressionistic. So if it doesn't meet it, it's fine. It's kind of... So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over again. Because now I'm going to use the same bag. Imagine that all these little branches are going to come out. But I pushed a little bit of the paint out so it's a little bit more white. And these would be like little viney stems coming out. Give this some body here. And I got to realize now that gravity is pulling this down, so I'm going to start dragging them down. I'm going to come back and do that more in a minute. So right now I got a little titanium white, and I'm just kind of paint around this so that blue just shows through a little bit, and to give it more of an impressionistic look. Kind of blending that blue into the outer part here to the white. And it's okay, like right there I grabbed a little green, probably a little bit more than I wanted to, but kind of balances out the colors and starts bringing them in together. See, like right here I could grab a little bit of pink, start giving a little bit of color there. So you can see I'm going kind of really loosely here. Now I'm going to add some water, and basically what I have here is just a trigger water bottle here that you can get at anywhere. You can get them at the hardware store, the grocery store. And I kind of want these colors to kind of homogenize here, and each one of them will probably bleed into the other a little bit. I'm going to go back and start putting more of that white in there to start blending in. If I had to ask myself, I'd say I probably put a little bit too much of the blue in there, but that's okay. Get some more of that titanium white, and so we know that this is the bottom, and I'm going to start pulling this stuff down and kind of give it an abstract look. And that's okay if a little of that color pulls in there, because we're doing kind of an abstract floral here. Plus we're giving the even though it's mostly going to be dominant white, so these colors will really pop. A little bit of that color blending in there gives it a little bit of homogeneity there, but if that's a real word, but homogenizes the colors a little bit. So it's just not stark, plain white. And even if I pull these little stems off, I don't care because I'll go back and add more. I'm going to pull upward there, so I'll be able to tell if it's up or down. So right now, I want to get some of these colors to really pull down, because see that little yellow? I like that in there, so I'm going to get under that and just pull it down a little bit more. Maybe I'm going to pull this little pink down. And I'm going to pull some of this pink down. It's a nice abstract look there. So I'm going to come back in here with this bag and do some more of those stems that I kind of lost there. And you can just kind of pull them in wherever you want, that you feel that you need them. And like, even if you want to come over this flower here to give it a little bit of dimension. You know, the stem would still be doing that in nature, even though it's an abstract. So again, gravity pulling them down. Now, if you see something you don't like, see an area that you don't like, you can go back and cover it. Let me see if I can find an area I don't like. And maybe we can introduce a new color. Let's maybe pull in a little bit of kind of ultramarine and white, which will make kind of a very light lavender color. Could probably use a little bit of that magenta in there too. And maybe this will kind of homogenize the blue that's in the background. These could just be like these little blue accents. They don't even have to be attached to anything. And that blue doesn't overwhelm any of the other colors in there. Just kind of balances them out a little bit. See, like I think that blue is a little too dark in there. So I'm gonna put a little blue accent in there. Pull some of this blue down too for more of that abstract look. So basically all these flowers, I didn't mean to do that, we'll fix that in a minute, allows me to be kind of very free in my movement. And I'm really, these are not real flowers. I'm just thinking about composition and color balance. And so we got a choice here. We could let this be, but I kind of like that this is all white here because this is all colorful. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of here. I don't want it. You could just scrape it in there and I could put it in here anywhere I want and scrape it down in. I'm going to get some more white and bring this back to being all white there. A little bit of color there is fine, but not too much. It gives this dead space here kind of gives a little bit of concentration on the color there. So you don't have to fill up the whole canvas or the wood panel here. The other good thing is I love painting on these hard surfaces. You put pressure down when you're going here. So I'd say I'm almost done. I'm going to go ahead and use this bag here and cut my hole a little bit bigger. And I'm going to enunciate this main stem a little better. Just a couple more pink accents in there. And one thing, and again, I don't know exactly what's going to happen until it happens, but I want this stem to stand out a little bit better, so I made a little bit darker green to just come out in a few places to accent it there. And so I kind of like this is going on here, but I want to give it a little bit more texture to pull in what's going on here, and there's a chance I could ruin it. See what happens. Actually, I think it's kind of good. I think I'm good. I think I like it. I'm done. So there's a nice abstract floral that was fun to learn composition and color. Okay, so, a lot of times I do a fully textured painting on a wood panel. However, this has texture that pops out, but it's the whole canvas, the whole wood panel is not textured. So there's probably less than a quart of paint on this. So it doesn't take a ton of paint to paint like this. A lot of it's just open space, which actually accentuates the texture, which is a great way to paint. I paint both ways, with flat backgrounds and fully textured backgrounds. So what I'm going to do with this painting is you need to kind of let it dry at no more of an upward angle like this or completely flat on a table or on your easel. And I'm going to put a fan on it overnight. This will probably be dry enough to hang with this amount of texture to stand up vertically tomorrow. But within a couple days under the air, it's going to be dry enough. So basically, I've been doing this a long time, and I can pretty much put together a composition. To me, painting, I identify it just like cooking. you start to recognize colors just the way you do flavors and the way flavors complement each other. And so with this being an abstract composition that resembles flowers, as I said, these are not particular organically correct of any kind of flower that exists that I'm aware of. However, I would suggest that if you need inspiration, look at a flower, look at what it looks like, and see if you can simplify the element to create it in an abstract form that's much more simpler. And it's good to get comfortable painting that way to get that freedom. Like you saw the way we moved through this. I honestly, and I'm not joking, I had no idea what I was going to do when I started painting. And I had to figure it out. I'm actually sweating a little bit because I had to figure this out as I was going. It's almost like a competition to myself. It's like, okay, if I could figure this out in 30 minutes. So, but I've done this before. And if you haven't done it before, take a look at a flower or another composition. Look at a floral bouquet in a vase or anything, or just a limb hanging in in your garden or your yard, and just find a way that you can loosely replicate it and then add whatever you want. So yeah, I'm going to put a fan on this. It'll dry and hang it on the wall. So I'm Justin Gaffrey with Gaffrey Art Material. So subscribe to our YouTube page. Let us know what you guys want me to teach you how to paint next, or just little techniques you want to know, or what kind of materials might help you figure out what you want to do. At Gaffrey Art Material, we specialize in these heavy body acrylics, these super heavy textures. We have all viscosities of paint as well, and we want to hear from you. So thank you. GaffreyArtMaterial.com.